This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 79th time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Reviewing Network Live. And I am really just wasting a lot of time here because we got to get going this week. The last 2 weeks have been very busy with news stories. Of course, I didn't do a show last week, a regular format of our show last week because of the Academy Awards. But we got a lot of stories to get to here, and so little time and so much to do. So let's just go ahead and let's get right to it. And let's start off, as we usually do here, with the top 5, the weekend box office, and not a very interesting top 5. We're kind of in a low right now in terms of movies in general. There hasn't been that big breakout hit to come around that really leads to a lot of stuff we could talk about here. There was one big new release this weekend, and even that one didn't do so well. So, let's just get right to it. Let's start off with films that we've kind of talked about already. Number 5, moving down from number 4, Paddington in Peru, still hanging in there. Not making a whole lot, though. $3.9 million, bringing its 4-week total up to $36.9 million. Basically, $37 million so far here in the States, but worldwide has done very well. $175 million worldwide. We're getting another Paddington movie soon, so. Moving on to number 4, dropping a spot from last week, The Monkey. Oscar Perkins is The Monkey, which brought in $3.9 million, bringing its 3-week gross up to $31 million. If you count worldwide numbers, it's up to $45.7 million. Relatively small budgeted movie in general, so did very well regardless. Paddington Peru cost $90 million to make, by the way, but it's already made that money back worldwide. Last Breath is number 3 on here. Number 2 last week, the big new release from last week, which doesn't really say a whole lot. It dropped down to $4.2 million this weekend for a total of $14.7 million this weekend. Domestically, I should say. The total so far, $14.7 million. If you take in worldwide numbers, it still has yet to open in a lot of areas. It hasn't even crossed $15 million worldwide yet, So moving on to the number 2 movie this week, and it's been the number 1 movie the last couple weeks, but finally a new release came around to knock it down, and that's Captain America: Brave New World. After 3 weeks as the number 1 film, it dropped to the 2 spot, bringing in $8.5 million this weekend for a 4-week total of $176.9 million. Worldwide, it's up to $370 million worldwide. It has to break $420 million, I believe, to break even, they said. So it's going to get close. It's going to get close to it. Something I do want to bring up with Captain America, it's related to Captain America, but did anyone see that new Thunderbolt special look that came out just in the last couple days or so, where, you know, they highlighted all the different people from A24 who works on this movie, and a lot of people really didn't mind it and actually did kind of enjoy it, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, this reeks of desperation, man. Yeah, because I'm watching this trailer and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm looking at this because, you know, you see it. It's the video on there is called Absolute Cinema, and they show off, you know, from the stars of Midsommar and A Different Man and You Hurt My Feelings, from the writer-directors of Beef, the cinematographer of The Green Knight, the production designer of Hereditary, the editor of Minari, the composer of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and just the trailer itself has some weird stuff inside of it that just feels very out of place for what this movie is trying to do. I don't know if this is a strategy by Marvel to try to get some buzz up for this movie. I mean, it could end up working in the end, but I don't know. It just feels like something where I feel like it's reeking of desperation because, you know, Marvel's been kind of on a downward slope as of the last couple of years with their movies, but I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm thinking that maybe this is the thing that has to make it work, but I get a feeling that if Thunderbolts doesn't do very well, we're going to look back on this trailer and think that, yeah, they probably made a big mistake here. But Captain America Brave New World, $176.5 million. It's hanging in there, but, yeah, it's not making the money that I think Marvel was hoping for. But, speaking of movies that are probably not making the money that the studios were hoping for, that brings us to the number one movie this week, and that is a new release this weekend. That is Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's follow-up to Parasite, his Academy Award-winning Best Picture, and a film that had been in development for several years. And if you don't remember what the story is, you have Robert Pattinson, who plays this guy who is a soldier who gets continuously killed, and they keep cloning him. He's known as an expendable and goes on a dangerous journey to colonize an ice planet. Now the movie didn't do. Now on paper, it doesn't look like it did bad. It brought in $19 million, which $19.1 million if you take in worldwide gross is up to $53.3 million, which doesn't sound like a bad opening indeed. But when you look at the budget at $118 million, you start to realize that, yeah, I really don't think this is going to make its money back anytime soon. I mean, it'll probably do well worldwide, but at the same time, though, it's like, I mean, here's the thing. It's an original sci-fi film, and original sci-fi films are incredibly hard to make a blockbuster out of. I mean, we've had many attempts that have tried to do this so well, tried to do this and failed miserably at it, Jupiter Ascending is an example. We've had great movies that have tried to do original sci-fi, and it didn't end up making money at all. But Ad Astra was an example of that. First Man, Edge of Tomorrow, The Creator. I mean, The Martian, I think, probably was the biggest original sci-fi film that we had. But even then, that wasn't really original because it was based off of a book. But okay, maybe The Martian isn't that, But you've got Bong Joon-ho, who had just won the Oscar for Parasite. You've got Robert Pattinson, who's coming off of the big success of The Batman for a few years prior. And this has been a film that's been pushing around the schedule all across the board. It was really going all over the release schedule. Some people blamed COVID. Some people blamed the writer's strike that we had a couple years ago. And yeah, and this is not one of those movies that's going to need to have worldwide help it out in the long run, because it says it needs to gross $240 to $300 million worldwide in order to break even, which is definitely a tall task to do, and I don't think it's going to have that per se. Especially, it doesn't help that the critical reviews for this are not really that strong. I think it's got a 79 on Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic is 72, and a cinema score of B, which B is not the best thing you really want to be at for a movie that you're hoping to have legs and stick around. Like Paddington Peru had an A minus, I think it was, but I don't know. I haven't yet to see it yet. I've wanted to see it though, but from what I've heard, the first half of the movie is really good, but then it really falls apart in the second half of the film, and it can't come back from that. And I mean, that seems to make sense. I've seen a lot of movies where the first half is really good and then the second half really falls apart. I mean, I just talked about it last night on Time About the Movies with Hancock, which was definitely the prime example of a movie where the first half is really good and then the second half just falls apart with this radical tonal shift, which I don't know if this movie does have that tonal shift, but I don't know. I just feel like this was a film that they really missed the mark on trying to promote this movie and sell it to people, and I don't know. I think this was just the worst time of the year to release this movie in general. I don't think there was just that demand for a movie like this there, but it has the benefit of not having stiff competition overall. So maybe, just maybe, it will stick around for a little bit. But yeah, it's going to have some tough competition ahead of itself coming up in the next couple of weeks. But which has me very concerned about Sinners too, the Michael B. Jordan movie, which I think that one will do better because of the name recognition of, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan. I think they're respectable names where they can carry a film overall and bring an audience in. But I don't know. It's tough to say right now where this film is going to end up going, especially with the budget that it has to get back at. And next week, there's not really a ton of big competition overall. I think the biggest new releases are Novocaine, which is the Jack Quaid movie, which I've been hearing a lot of good things about that one. I've also been hearing a lot of good things about Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag. Of course, I've heard a lot of great things about The Day the Earth Blew Up, the Looney Tunes movie, which, to me, that's probably the must-see movie because, we need to show Warner Brothers that, we still care about the Looney Tunes. And the thing that sucks about this is that it's not playing in my regular theater, so I'm gonna have to go out to another theater that I haven't been to in 20 years to go check it out, and I'm willing to do that to give this movie the money that it needs to show Warner Brothers that we still care about the Looney Tunes and we want to see Coyote versus Acme, damn it, because Eric Bauza literally said that the fate of that movie depends on people going to see this new Looney Tunes movie, which comes out next week. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out for sure. I think there's another one, Opus from Io Edebriri, that comes out next week. It's an A24 movie. But other than that, though, yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of them are going to do gangbuster business in general, but back to this weekend's top 5. Not a whole lot of other stories to talk about here. Most of the other new releases kind of fell under $1 million. Rule Breakers, Night of the Zoo, Apocalypse, In the Lost Lands. But there was one significant movie that found a growth in the top 10, and that's Nora, the Best Picture winner this year, which jumped up nearly 600% to $1.8 million after reopening back up in over 1,100 theaters, and bringing its 21-week total to $18.4 million, and its worldwide gross is $46.2 million, so it is now no longer the lowest-grossing Best Picture winner, beating out The Hurt Locker. I'm actually kind of surprised that The Brutalist didn't get a bigger push out there, especially after Adrian Brody won for best actor, and yeah, that one did not get the big wide push that I thought that one was going to get. Yeah, they just kind of they actually lost a lot of theaters because of that, but fell out of it fell 65% from last week too. But I don't know if that's because people were so sick and tired of Adrian Brody talking or not. But I didn't think he was that bad doing that. But one other movie Oscar winner that did get a push was Flow, which brought in $102,100, bringing it up to $4.4 million, getting an expansion from 20 different theaters across the country, a 97.8% increase from last week. So those were the two big ones that got the big push from the Oscars last week, Nora and Flow. And yeah, so with that said, that's the weekend box office. And now let's get to the nitty-gritty, because there's a lot of news stories we got to cover here. So let's just go ahead and jump right into story number 1. So this was back at the end of February, and it started off with Kathleen Kennedy announcing that she was going to be announcing that she was going to be retiring, but the speculation was she was about ready to go ahead and announce her retirement. And this was kind of a story that was from Lucasfilms, and that was kind of a story that was buzzing around for a couple of years now, and it finally came to fruition a couple weeks ago before the Oscars. But just a couple days after that story broke, she reiterated the plans of her plans, and she is not retiring, but she did an interview with Deadline Hollywood, and I've got it right here. So let me go ahead and read this to you. It says, "I thought I'd seen it all in trade journalism, but the piranha-like frenzy on Kathleen Kennedy and the successor speculation that followed Matt Belloni's Puck report that Disney was putting her out to pasture is a new one for me. Belloni for years has been beating on Kennedy like she owes him money, and this week he reported Kennedy was retiring. I recall he essentially did the same thing more than a year ago, yet here she still is, producing the Mandalorian movie and prepping the Sean Levy-directed Star Wars film that Ryan Gosling is circulating." So basically, the story coming out of this is essentially coming from somebody who clearly has a problem with Kathleen Kennedy, and I don't have a problem with her per se. I mean, I don't think she's not the worst I've seen. She's not the worst I've seen handling this whole thing at Star Wars. I mean, like, again, we talked about this long enough. How I feel like Disney's better with Star Wars there, but according to insiders, Kennedy had been working on a succession plan for a couple of years, eyeing candidates from within process with Bob Iger and Alan Bergman that puts someone like Dave Filoni, who knows the universe inside out, in a strong position. Let me see if I can find where. Is there anything else in here per se? Okay, she interviewed this guy. Who wrote this? Who wrote this article? Mike Fleming Jr. So Mike interviewed Kathleen Kennedy, and she had to say this. The question was, "We've read all the speculative reports that you are out. There's a frenzy for the next person who's going to take over Lucasfilm. What is the truth?" And Kathleen Kennedy responded, "The truth is, and I just want to stay loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies. That's the first thing it's important to say. I am not retiring. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bench of people here, and we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road. We are in lockstep as to what that's going to be, and I'm continuing. I'm producing the Mandalorian movie right now. I'm already producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoroughly with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in. So that is all underway, and we have every right to make that announcement when we want to make it. And then they followed up by saying, he asked the question, that you are looking within seems to give credence to what we've heard, that an exec like Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni is in good position as he works on a Star Wars to write and direct. And she goes on to say, I can't say who it is because there's just an internal process that goes on inside a large corporation, a publicly held company, as to how we go about making deals, finalizing deals, and making announcements. There's nothing unusual with that, and we're in the process. So, if you want to read deep into that, chances are it's going to be Dave Filoni. And I think the fact that he got the opportunity to be the Chief Creative Officer not too long ago, I think, I think this was less than a year ago when they made that decision, But yeah, if you want to take into that, I think it's going to be more than likely Dave Filoni who eventually succeeds Kathleen Kennedy when she does eventually retire. The only other person I can think of maybe to replace her is Jon Favreau, who has been one of the key contributors to Star Wars' success as of late, especially with The Mandalorian. And actually, he's directing... I think he's directing the Mandalorian movie, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Let me see. Yeah, directed by Jon Favreau. So, yeah, it would not surprise me at all if it was Filoni or Favreau, or maybe both of them taking over the company. I think that's something that makes a whole lot of sense to do, and I think that's something where, yeah, that's the direction I think you would want to go if you want to keep Star Wars afloat. You have somebody who knows what they're doing with the Star Wars brand, and I think those guys have a pretty good indication of what they're doing right now. So, I would totally be for that decision, but when the time comes, I'm going to accept it as it is. So yeah, not much more to say about that one here. So let's go ahead and move on to story number 2. And you're going to notice that a lot of these stories I'm talking about here, first off, are from the week before the Oscars. So, including this next one here, where you have Edebriri, who's, of course, in The Bear and is going to be starring in the new movie Opus this week. She is set to write and is in talks to star in the Barbie movie at A24. The project had been in development since 2019 when it was announced that Mattel Films and Daniel Kaluuya's 59% Productions would be partnering with the studio on the project about the beloved childhood TV character. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. It says, Barney and Friends, which was produced from 1992 to 2009, was a childhood staple and introduced villains to Barbie. Well, Barney can be seen as a villain to some parents, but introduce viewers to Barney, an imaginary and perpetually optimistic Tyrannosaurus Rex that teaches lessons about friendship through song and dance. Barney will be overseen by Kevin McKean and Andrew Chanel for Mattel, with Mattel head Robbie Brenner producing along with Kaluuya and Rowan Riley. So yeah, this was a Barbie. I keep saying Barney. The Barney movie had been in development for a long time. It's like before the pandemic they were announcing this movie, and from the first I heard about it, I thought it was going to be some kind of like Jordan Peele, Get Out, Us type of storyline, but it still could be that way. You never know. A24 is known for taking you to extreme places that you didn't think you were going to go at first, but I don't think it's going to go down that path. Or maybe it will. Who knows? Maybe it could actually lead to something very interesting, but truth be told, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 1989, and yes, I grew up with Barney the Dinosaur. My mother loved Barney the Dinosaur so much. She still loves him, but yeah, as a kid, it was fine. And it was around the time I was a baby, like 2-3 years old. It was on the air, so yeah, it kind of holds a little bit of a nostalgic place in my heart for it. Even though, yeah, I will be the first to admit that it is pretty corny at times, and it is exactly what it is. And yeah, shows like Animaniacs and The Simpsons have properly made fun of it, and rightfully so. But yeah, like I said, it's something where it's just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is, man. But I'm really curious of where the direction of this is going to go. Like, what possible area are we going to go with the storyline here? Because yeah, it seems like this could go in several ways possible. But excuse me. But yeah. So not much more to say about that one. That's Barney with Edebriri, which, the fact that she's on board gives me a lot more confidence in it because I love that actress. I love her on The Bear. I love her in Inside Out too. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next story that we have here. No question, the biggest story of the week before the Oscars was that Apparently there was a leak of who was playing Shrek's daughter in the new Shrek movie that's coming out next Christmas, and so because of that, Universal went ahead and put together this little, it's not even really a teaser trailer per se, but more of a little commercial for Shrek 5, and we got our first look at Shrek and Fiona and Donkey, and also Shrek's daughter in here, and it's a very different animation style than a lot of people were expecting from this, and I'll be the first to admit, when I first saw the trailer for it, I was just kind of like, well, this is kind of weird. It's much cleaner, it's much more crisper, and I'm going to miss the old, uglier designs of the original Shrek movie, but let me go ahead and play the trailer here, and then we'll come back with my thoughts on it, because, yeah, I just want to say that the people out there who are still bitching and moaning about this, get a life. I mean, seriously, get a life, but I'll save that for after we're done watching this commercial here. It's really not really a commercial, but it's labeled as a Shrek 5 cast announcement. How about that?
Hey, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all? Why, Shrek, of course.
And people were getting on them because, oh, how dare TikTok exist in the Shrek universe? It's just like, you clearly do not know what Shrek is about, because Shrek was known for being a modern version. It was a fairy tale with modern elements to it. I mean, for God's sakes, they went to a place called Far, Far Away that's literally an amalgamation of Beverly Hills, literally a representation of Beverly Hills in a fairy tale. Just get out of here with this, man. Like I had no problem with that per se, and I think they did that mostly because Shrek has essentially become a meme, and yeah, I had no problem with that per se, but let's keep going.
Ew, Dad!
Ooh, Mom and Light.
Who's making this stuff?
Not me!
Whoa! Shrek 5, starring Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, and Zendaya? Oh, damn. Only in theaters, Christmas 2026.
Like, if anything, I was more shocked at the fact that they actually put damn in that trailer, because this is a kid's movie, and yeah, you don't usually put that in a trailer for a kid's movie, per se, but, lo and behold, they did that. But if you watch the designs here, I mean, yeah, they are definitely much different looking designs than oh, shut up. Okay, I forgot to turn off the video before I paused, before I was talking, but, yeah, you can look at the designs and see that, yeah, they are definitely much more cleaner. They're the eyes, the expression on the eyes is definitely a whole lot different than the original Shrek movie, but it's also important to keep in mind here that the original Shrek movie was was towards the beginning of the computer animation, what do you call it? Essentially the start of computer animation. I mean, Toy Story was only 6 years old when the original Shrek came out, and A Bug's Life and Ants had just come before that, and Toy Story 2. So there was only 4 major, and I guess 5, because Dinosaur's technically Dinosaur's a CG animated movie, so there were only 5 computer animated movies back then. And when Shrek came out, yeah, at the time we accepted it because computer animation was still a relatively new thing, but you look back on it nowadays and it's just like, yeah, these are definitely primitive-looking computer graphics in general, but again, that was for the time period. That's what made sense. I mean, Toy Story. Look at the transition from Toy Story from 1995 to the last film in 2019. I mean, the animation clearly has gotten a whole lot better since then, and yeah, it's a little off-putting at first, but once you watch it a couple times, like I have, it doesn't really bother me all that much per se. Like, if there's only one thing I can say that's kind of nitpicky about this is that Fiona's a little bit more hornier than usual. Well, but yeah, she seems. But then again, once again, it's important to keep in mind that you have to really look at this. And somebody made a good point about this when this came out, that everybody has aged. Obviously, like it's one of the rare times you get to see characters age over the course of time. I mean, we saw that with Toy Story, we saw that with the How to Train Your Dragon movies, and we're seeing it with Shrek. But you have to look real closely. Like, I think someone made the point that Shrek's got like crow's feet now, and like Donkey has a little bit more gray hairs popping up here and there. And so yeah, I'll take it as that per se. And of course, it makes sense for them to grow since Shrek's daughter is now a lot older too. I mean, she's basically a teenager. And then there were a lot of people that were going off saying, you know, well, where are the other two kids at? Just the internet was a mistake. And we're going to delve into more reasons why the internet was such a mistake later on in the show. But the fact that the internet went off on this because of what they did. It's just like nobody can have fun anymore, man. Like, everyone was wondering, well, what happened to Shrek's kids? Where are they at? It's just like, the movie is still over a year and a half away from coming out. Like, relax. And, like, people got on Shrek's daughter because, you know, she's got a nose ring now. Just like, oh, is she a lesbian now? And it's just like, it's the stupidest argument I heard about this was that they compared the redesigns of Shrek to the ugly Sonic design from Sonic the Hedgehog. And at that point, it's just like, get a life, people. Seriously. Like, there was literally petitions going out for DreamWorks to change the designs because of, you know, hey, if Sonic the Hedgehog could change their designs, we can do the same thing. We can force them to do the same thing with the Shrek 5. There's a notable difference between Sonic the Hedgehog's ugly Sonic design and this. This looks like a cleaner version of the original Shrek characters, and everybody looks still the same. Everybody looks the same, except, of course, for Shrek's daughter, who's now older. But the reason why everyone was so pissed off about ugly Sonic was because he looked terrible. He didn't even look like what people expected from Sonic the Hedgehog when they accepted the movie from him. And it's like, I'm looking at him right now, and yeah, that does not look like Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, that looks like a terrible, terrible design with the human teeth and all that. And thankfully, they have fixed that. And of course, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies are still very popular even to this day. And not only that, the ugly Sonic character actually has become its own thing, thanks in large part to, of all things, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Like, they took that ugly design and actually made it something that actually pays off in the end. Like, he's one of the big things that happens in Chippendale Rescue Rangers, yeah, it's so that's something where they actually took something really bad and actually put it to good use in another project later on. But this whole controversy with Shrek 5 right now is really stupid, and it's clear that the people who say that, oh, they're Shrek lovers and they're just destroying the lore of Shrek in general, like, these are people that clearly did not watch the first Shrek movie or the intentions of the original Shrek movie, because the original intentions of Shrek was to be a story about fairy tales with modern elements to it. I mean, this is not something that's new or inventive. This is something that's been there from the very beginning, and if you can't figure that out, then quite frankly, you should not be allowed to see Shrek 5, honestly. But that being said, I'm actually looking forward to it more now because because you got these idiots online out there who are trying to make this a much bigger of a controversy than it actually is. This is not that big of a controversy at all. It's not even at all, but anyway, most people have talked about this to death already. I'm just getting to it now, but that's my thoughts on the whole Shrek 5 controversy in quotation marks, which really is not a controversy. So, moving on to our next story then. And this is the last of the big stories that came out before the Oscars, but the story is a quick one here too. Jason Statham's returning for the Beekeeper 2. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. It says that Jason Statham is returning to the Hive for a sequel to action thriller The Beekeeper. The project is the follow-up to the 2024 film about a retired intelligence operative who worked for an organization known as the Beekeepers after the death of his beloved landlady due to a phishing scam. He begins with a tour of vengeance. Miramax will produce and finance the film, with production set to begin in the fall. Timu Janto, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who is behind the upcoming sequel Nobody 2, is taking over directing duties from David Ayer, with screenwriter Kurt Wimmer back for the follow-up. Good job on them getting Jason Statham back for this one and getting the director for Nobody 2, which has yet to come out yet. But I love the first Nobody with Bob Odenkirk. He's back for that one, so I'm really excited to see that one. And The Beekeeper was one of those movies where it had a really lackluster premise to it, but it's one of those good, fun action movies. Jason Statham has a ball with that movie, and David Ayer being involved in that really helped it out. it showed that David Ayer, there's a reason why this director was worth something. This is the same guy that did End of Watch, but everyone knows him for his work with Suicide Squad. But Beekeeper was a really fun movie that came out last year. It was a really fun film, very silly, very over the top, very ridiculous, and here's hoping that the same thing can happen with the next movie that they're working on, which is A Working Man, which they've been showing more trailers of it for now, but then again, maybe it's because I'm watching on FXX and they're showing the trailer all the time. But David Ayer's back, Jason Statham is in it, and it's a script co-written by Sylvester Stallone. I mean, that should be more than enough to make this a good, fun movie overall. But I'll definitely check it out when that comes out. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next with the Beekeeper sequel. But quick one right there. So let's go ahead and get updated with this week's big stories that came out. And one of the first big ones that came out this week was the fact that the Tiana series for Disney Plus has been officially shelved, as Walt Disney Animation is abandoning the long-form streaming content for Disney Plus. This is again from the Hollywood Reporter. Walt Disney Animation Studios has officially pulled the plug on its Tiana Princess series as it abandons making original long-form content for streaming. A spokesman confirmed there will be some layoffs in the Vancouver studio as a result of this shift in business strategy. In addition to the Tiana series, the studio is also scrapping an unannounced feature-length project that was set to go straight to Disney+. Tiana was first announced in December 2020 and was envisioned as a musical feature for Anika Noni Rose, reprising her role as Tiana from the 2009 film The Princess and the Frog, the film centering on Disney's first black princess. Sources close to the streaming service say that despite best efforts, including several changes to the creative team, Tiana ultimately could not get to where it needs to go, be given production costs. Still, The Princess and the Frog remains a key priority for the company, as Tiana is one of Disney's canon princesses. Last year, the studio's Splash Mountain... I'm getting my words mixed up here. Last year, the Splash Mountain attraction was revamped at both Disney's parks as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The animation studio is said to be developing a specific short-form special inspired by The Princess and the Frog, which is currently in early development. Though details on the project remain under wraps, it's expected to feature all-new storytelling based off the 2009 film, with George Sherry attached to direct and write, and Steve Anderson also directing. The decision to shelve Tiana and the unannounced Disney Plus movie follows last year's news that Pixar would no longer prioritize developing long-form episodic content after the release of Dream Productions and Win or Lose on Disney Plus, which I've been watching Win or Lose as of late. It's actually pretty good. I mean, the controversy surrounding the gay storyline really kind of hurts this from becoming a great show in general, but it's still a really good show overall. One you should definitely check out. But during the pandemic, some Disney executives, including then CEO Bob Chapek, pressed its various film silos to make original content for Disney Plus in order to grow subscribers. Insiders say that Walt Disney Animation remains committed to releasing one theatrical film per year in addition to other shorts and special projects. Zootopia 2 is slated for November 26, with the studio's new Chief Creative Officer Jared Bush tapped to direct and write, and Disney vet Byron Howard also directing. An unannounced feature is scheduled for November 2026, while the third installment of the blockbuster Frozen franchise is set for November 2027. Short form is wildly popular on streaming. Bluey, which Disney Plus licenses, was the most watched show in the U.S. last year, according to Nielsen, and Disney Animation's past short form streaming projects include the Emmy Award-winning Zootopia Plus and Baymax series. So hearing this news about the Tiana series not going forward is very disappointing to hear, per se. But, hey, you know what they could do, because they did it with the Moana series. They could take whatever the project they had available and sell it to people as The Princess and the Frog 2 and release it to theaters, and it'll probably make $1 billion worldwide, because apparently Disney is smart enough to con $1 billion out of people all across the world for that garbage sequel that they did. And of course, I'm joking. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please, for the love of God, do not do that. If we get an announcement in the next month or in the next year or so that the Princess and the Frog sequel is coming, I'm not going to go see it, because I already know what it's going to end up being like. It's going to be the same thing with Moana 2, but it's a shame that we're not going to get to see this show, because I love the Princess and the Frog. I think it's it's a really damn good Disney movie with a great villain, Keith David playing the Shadow Man. It's a really good love story between the two, and there were a lot of criticisms about the fact that it's Disney's first black princess, and yet she spends most of the majority of the movie as a frog, which, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's called The Princess and the Frog. And it's a critical part of the storyline. It's just like, what did you want them to do, honestly? But But I'm disappointed that they're not going to be making more animated shows for Disney Plus. I mean, it really does feel like something where, like, I mean, wasn't that the point of putting these shows in development in the first place, so you had more content available to you? Like, where's this stuff going to go to next? I mean, where do you go? Where's the next? I mean, what are you supposed to do now for Disney Plus shows in particular? But I don't know. Like, to me, it's a kind of a dick move on Disney's part, and I hope one day we actually get to see this footage in particular to see what this thing could eventually have become. But yeah, it's a shame that they're not doing this anymore, because I was really looking forward to this. But I'm still looking forward to that animated that special they're doing, though. So if it's on that same level, and even if it's just the stuff that they took from that show and put it into there, I'll be more than okay with that, because it's not a movie that they're being selling as the official sequel like they did with Moana last year. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that whole thing. But yeah, it's a shame that they're not going to be doing more animated stuff on Disney Plus on there. But anyway, so with that said, let us go ahead and move on to our next story that we have here, and it's another story related to Disney Plus. And maybe they're not completely getting out of the animation game, especially considering this next story that I have here. And that is with Jon Favreau, like we talked about earlier before. Jon Favreau is working on an Oswald the Lucky Rabbit series for Disney Plus. And I have the story here from Deadline Hollywood. It says here, over the last decade, Jon Favreau has been a linchpin of Disney Plus's original series slate, with flagship The Mandalorian and its offshoots, while also taking on classic Disney animated characters on the feature side, with the live-action photorealistically animated The Jungle Book and the photorealistically animated The Lion King. Now he is combining the two with a new series in development at Disney Plus, Deadline has learned. The animated live-action hybrid is Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, a saucy, self-absorbed bunny. Favreau is writing and producing the project for Walt Disney Studios. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit is very important to the Walt Disney Company. The cartoon, which bears close resemblances to Mickey Mouse, has a fractured history with the company and played a pivotal role in the creation of Disney's most famous animated character. Oswald was created in 1927 by Walt Disney and featured in 27 animated shorts. But after Universal took control of the character in 1928, Disney created a new character as a replacement, Mickey Mouse. Bringing Oswald home had been a priority for Disney CEO Bob Iger, and the Walt Disney Company acquired the trademark in 2006. The character entered the public domain in 2023. So yeah, they're not completely getting out of the original animated stuff for Disney Plus in particular, and it's about time they did something with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. They've had so many other opportunities to do so. There was a short that they did that never was officially released, but I think it was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be something that was supposed to go to theaters, but it never went to anywhere. But I mean, there's a lot you can do with that character in particular. They've tried to use him in the Epic Mickey games, where he's been very fun to watch in there. And yeah, it'd be cool to actually have him do something with this character that's been lost hasn't had a major project involved with him for so many years. And Jon Favreau is a damn good filmmaker in general, and he knows how to entertain his audiences. So yeah, this is something that I really want to get behind. I hope they actually get this through. I hope they actually put this together, and this isn't something where they announce it and then they go several years without talking about it, and then they say, oh yeah, we've quietly pushed it off to the side. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I'm really looking forward to this. I really can't wait to see what he does with this in particular. So Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So let's go ahead and move on to another story that we have here. Another story this week, Kathryn Newton is joining in on the sequel to Ready or Not, which is looking like it's getting ready to finally get made. Of course, if you don't remember Ready or Not, the first film was about a young bride played by Samara Weaving who joins her new husband's rich, eccentric family in a time-honored tradition that turns into a lethal game where everyone fights for their survival. It was a really fun movie that came out 2019. It was a really funny movie, a very funny horror comedy, very much a black comedy, if you will. But Deadline has the story here about the sequel. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumanium actor Kathryn Newton is getting on the bloody fun and is joining the cast of Radio Science's follow-up to its near $58 million global grossing 2019 cult searchlight hit, Ready or Not. The casting marks Newton's second collaboration with Radio Silence after last year's Universal horror movie Abigail, which is a really good movie, by the way. Newton joins returning star Samara Weaving in the movie directed by Matt Bettolini Open and Tyler Gillen. The original Ready or Not scribes are also back, Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murphy. And then they talk about what the movie is about, and that's about it. They don't have anything about when the film is going to start shooting, but the fact that they're building a cast already means that they're probably going to start shooting sooner rather than later. And I think it's the right time to do it right now. You're just on the cusp of getting to the point where, yeah, if you wait too much longer, it's going to be too late for this to be any good. But they got a lot of the same people back for this movie, and I really like what these guys have done since then. They've revitalized the Scream movies. Kathryn Newton's somebody I've been a big fan of the last couple of years. I thought she was great in Freaky and Lisa Frankenstein. She was also in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. She's also on Big Little Lies, Blockers. Really good actors overall. A really fun concept the first movie was. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do with this one here. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to another project that's going to try to get off the ground here. And that is the fact that, once again, they are trying to put together a Monopoly movie. And if you've been following the development of the Monopoly movie, you know that they've been trying to do this for decades now. But here is their latest attempt, as the story from The Hollywood Reporter reports. It says that John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein are going from Dungeons & Dragons to Park Avenue, closing a deal to write a movie based off the board game Monopoly. Lionsgate is behind the project that is being produced by Barbie outfit Lucky Chap and Hasbro Entertainment. Monopoly dates back to 1939 and challenges players to acquire properties and build houses and hotels, all while avoiding bankruptcy and the dreaded go directly to jail card. The game was created as a way of showing that the consolidation of wealth is overall bad for the health and the economy. Nearly 1 billion copies of the game have been sold, and just as many explosive family arguments have been waged over the game. Lionsgate has long been trying to figure out a way to bring this movie to life, with another version of the project having Kevin Hart attached to a star and Tim Story on board to direct. Lionsgate extended its rights to Monopoly when it completed its purchase of Hasbro's film and TV arm E1. Daley and Goldstein previously worked with Hasbro on 2023's Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. The Paramount movie grossed over $200 million at the global box office. So yeah, this is a project that they've been trying to get off the ground for years now, and this isn't even like the original. That Tim Story Kevin Hart one was not even the first time they tried to get this made. I mean, they've been trying to get this made for decades now. I think that I'm trying to remember when the first time they even thought about doing a movie about this was in the works. Here we go. I found it here on Wikipedia's page, but yeah, this goes all the way back to 2008 when Universal was going to do this with Ridley Scott attached to direct it. They were going to do that movie, but then Universal halted the production on that and opted out of the agreement with the rights reverting back to Hasbro. And then not too long after that, they had a partnership with Emmett Furler Films, and they were going to develop that along with a remake of Action Man and Hungry Hungry Hippos. And then they dropped out of the satirical version that was supposed to be Ridley Scott's project. Then in 2015, Lionsgate announced that there would be a movie coming up with Andrew Niccol, the director of Gattaca, the same man who wrote The Truman Show, writing it as a family-friendly action-adventure picture. And that never went anywhere. Then in 2019, we got the Kevin Hart version with Tim Story attached to direct, and now we have this new version coming out, which is being produced by Margot Robbie's company, and has the guys behind Dungeons & Dragons behind it. So that's, I mean, if anything, it's got me confident because it's got those guys on it, and I really like what they did with the Dungeons & Dragons movie. But is this ever going to get made? Probably not. I'm really thinking that this probably will not get off the ground anytime soon. I mean, this is a project they've been trying to get done for years now with so many different people on board, and it really is hard to... I mean, Monopoly in itself is a movie of its own. You're playing that game for more than 2 hours, if you're lucky. But, yeah, it's really hard, I think. It's going to be really hard, I think, to make this a movie that's going to turn out to be very profitable, per se, or even turn out to be as good as it is when they initially put the development on it. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I'm cautiously optimistic because of the fact that it's got the Dungeons & Dragons guys on it, so... I mean, who knows? Maybe maybe this might be the time for it. But so anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the last of the big news stories we have here. This was actually just announced a couple days ago. So the good news is that Zach Cregger's reboot of Resident Evil has a studio now. The bad news is it's the same studio that released all the other god-awful Resident Evil movies. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Sony has officially picked up the rights to the Resident Evil reboot by Zach Cregger. And I've got the story here from Deadline Hollywood. Constantine's Resident Evil franchise reboot with barbarian and weapon filmmaker Zach Cregger directing will stay at Sony. Warner's was kicking the tires on the latest Cregger pick, but Sony isn't letting this $1.2 billion grossing franchise go. A theatrical release date of September 18th, 2026 has been set, which tells you how excited the studio are to get the latest rendition up on the screen. Cregger's screenplay, which was co-written by Shay Hayton, Ballerina, and John Wick Chapters 3 and 4, is under wraps, but apparently harkens back to the original Capcom game's horror roots. Constantine Films is producing and co-financing the film. Constantine's Robert Kusler, Vertigo Entertainment's Rory Lee, and Mira Yoon, and PlayStation Productions are also producing. And, watch Paul W.S. Anderson and Emiliovic trying to figure out a way to squeeze their way into this movie, because it's going to happen. Just wait, But regardless, I think Sony realizes that they have the rights to this, and, I'm optimistic about it, because it is Zach Cregger. The guy has definitely proven to be a pretty solid horror filmmaker in the last couple of years with Barbarian, and also Companion, which just came out recently. So, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic to where they go with it. Hopefully Sony does not butt in on this movie and make it like the other Resident Evil movies, because those movies are fucking awful. But, again, not much more to say about that one per se, so that's the latest on the new Resident Evil movie, which comes out in September 2026 with director Zach Cregger on board. So those are all the big news stories this week, but we had a couple of tragic deaths that happened the week before the Oscars, and I kind of want to delve into those real quick. So a couple weeks ago, we found out that Gene Hackman had passed away, and Gene Hackman lived to be 95 years old, and most people would look at what Gene Hackman's age and be like, well, he probably died of an old age, right? Well, no, it apparently was anything but that, per se. And, supposedly he was still a very healthy-looking person at 90 years old, but then, there's been this big mystery about, what really happened here. Was there foul play suspected here? Did somebody go ahead and kill him or something like that? But, it was a mystery that was building up for the last couple of weeks, but, we found out just Friday that about what actually happened. And supposedly, as I'm reading off of Wikipedia's page here with Gene Hackman's information here on the death, so what basically happened was, in the final months of his life, Hackman's neighbors in Santa Fe, New Mexico, noted that his health appeared to be declining, and he and his wife, Betty, was it Betty or Betsy? Betsy Arakawa, I think I'm pronouncing that right, ceased communication with family and friends. Arakawa died in their home around February 11, 2025, from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. And if you don't know what that is, it's a respiratory disease caused by the hantaviruses. The main features of illnesses are microvascular leakage and acute respiratory distress syndrome. So yeah, it's pretty rough stuff there. But Hackman did not seek help. Authorities believe that he was unable to comprehend her death due to his Alzheimer's. Hackman died in his home around February 18th, upon which date his pacemaker recorded an abnormal rhythm. He died from severe heart disease complicated by advanced Alzheimer's disease and kidney disease. So, it's a tragic thing to think about that. And, not only that, but one of their 3 dogs was also found dead too. It's a tragic story, man, and just on so many levels, because not only is one of our great actors dead, but, his wife is dead, one of these poor dogs is dead, and just a tragic way for this to end in particular. And I know, he was 95 years old, and it was more than likely that he was going to die sooner rather than later, but nobody should have to go out as bad as that. Like if you're in your 90s or something like that, or very old, you want to go out where you don't feel like that you want to go out on your own terms, but just the way that they handle this, it's just like, man, this whole thing was such a tragic thing to happen in particular. And, there was possibility, as I said, about, foul play, like somebody came in and killed them, and it was deemed suspicious enough to warrant the investigation. There were some people that thought that carbon monoxide poisoning might have been a difference, but no, we eventually found that out. And yeah, it really is a tragic thing that happened, man. And, just a really, really tragic thing in particular. And, what more can you say about that than, thoughts and prayers to the Hackman family, to the Arcar family. Nobody should have to go out like that. But of course, when you talk about Gene Hackman and his amazing amount of work, which is all over the place, man. Just so many great movies for you to watch him in, like Bonnie and Clyde, The French Connection, where of course he won the Oscar for that, The Poseidon Adventure, Young Frankenstein, The Conversation, A Bridge Too Far. Of course, you can't talk about Gene Hackman without talking about him as Lex Luthor in the Superman movies, Reds, What's another really good one that everyone talks about? Hoosiers is another great one. Mississippi Burning, Postcards from the Edge, Class Action's a really good underrated gem of his. Of course, he won a second Oscar for Unforgiven, The Firm, Crimson Tide, The Quick and the Dead, Get Shorty, The Birdcage, Ants, Enemy of the State, The Replacements. Just so many great movies he was involved in. And I want to kind of delve into the more underrated gems of his, because he made a lot of really good underrated movies in particular. And one of the best early ones that I know of was No Way Out, which is a really good movie with him and Kevin Costner and Sean Young. A really good neo-noir thriller from director Roger Donaldson. Just a really, really good movie. Class Action is another great underrated film where, you know, it's him playing off of Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, their father and daughter, and they get caught in this lawsuit where the two lawyers are related to each other. And it's a really engaging legal drama, directed by Michael Apted. It's one you should definitely check out. Class Action is definitely one that's really underrated. That's another really good underrated one of his. Heartbreakers is one of my favorite movies of his, with him and Sigourney Weaver and Ray Liotta. Another great actor who's passed away. Jennifer Love Hewitt, Jason Lee, directed by Dave Merkin. Anne Bancroft's also in that movie too. Really, really great movie. And Runaway Jury. Runaway Jury is another underrated courtroom thriller with him and a lot of really good actors in that one. John Cusack, Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz, Bruce Davidson. Really, really good movie based off of John Grisham's story. And it was actually the second to last film he made before he retired. The last film he made, which I think is very, very hilarious, and not in terms of the movie itself, which is Welcome to Mooseport, which is the film he did with Ray Romano, basically playing Ray Barone. I mean, that's literally what that movie is just Ray Romano is playing Ray Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond. And you know, the whole story about that is that, of course, he wants to run for mayor of Mooseport because Gene Hackman's a former president who wants to be the mayor, and, of course, he falls for Marty, Ray Romano's girlfriend. But that movie isn't as memorable for the movie itself, but that movie is more memorable for, of all things, is a scene from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where on the Flitsmithler, that there is literally a thing on the thing where, you know, there's literally a port on there that's literally called the Welcome to Moose port. Like, it's literally a UBS port that literally says Welcome to Mooseport. And the fact that that's the last thing, this is the last movie that everyone will remember Gene Hackman for, and it's the fact that it's the most memorable thing about it is an in-joke from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Like, I mean, talk about a way for you to go out as your last movie, where your film is not even memorable except for the fact that somebody is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller remembered it so much to put it as an in-joke in a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Like, I always found that really hilarious. But like I said, there's a lot of great Gene Hackman movies out there. Some other ones I didn't talk about. The Royal Tenenbaums is a great movie. Behind Enemy Lines it's not a great movie per se, but he's great in that. The Replacements, great fun movie, football comedy with Keanu Reeves. Absolute Power is another good one. Get Shorty, Crimson Tide, as I said, The Quick and the Dead. So many good movies with this guy's name attached to it. I mean, this guy started a lot of classic movies in general, and yeah, he's definitely one of those last great film stars that it's good. You know, we haven't seen in a lot of things in over 20 years, but man, knowing that he's no longer with us anymore is just really tragic to see, and especially with the way he died. I mean, rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Of course, rest in peace to Betsy Arcara. Like I said before, and thoughts and prayers out to the families out there. So, just a tragic thing that happened to both of them. So with that said, there was one other person that passed away recently that I kind of want to bring up, and it's tragic too, not only because of the person that died, but because of what happened after they died. And it's not for the reasons you might think it is. It's actually trying to prove once and for all that the internet was another mistake. And that is, of course, that Michelle Trachtenberg died pretty much around I think it was the day before Gene Hackman was officially confirmed dead. But, of course, Gene Hackman died at 95 years old. Michelle Trachtenberg died at 39 years old. I turned 36 a couple months ago, so seeing that this woman died at 39 years old, it just really, really it just really gave me a shock for a second there. Like, your life doesn't matter how old you are, your life can go just like that. But, you know, Michelle Trachtenberg, of course, as I said before, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up with a lot of shows, especially with shows on Nickelodeon, so I saw her a lot in The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and I saw Harriet the Spy. I didn't see a lot of her stuff when she eventually left Nickelodeon, stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer early on. I didn't watch Gossip Girl. I saw her in Eurotrip. I did eventually get to Buffy the Vampire Slayer later on down the road. I never watched any of the other stuff she was involved in, so when she died, yeah, I was upset about it, but I don't think I was really that. It was really that much more of a tragedy to me because I had seen her in a lot of stuff since maybe Eurotrip, but even Eurotrip really isn't that good of a movie to begin with. But regardless, it's still a tragic passing overall, and she died of natural causes. I believe that they said that, you know, I think they said that it was because of natural causes. They haven't. I don't. Did they say it? Did they? They had said that I'm leaning on Wikipedia right now, that there were apparently signs of jaundice, and she had lost a lot of weight, and she actually went through a liver transplant just recently before she passed away. And I could have sworn I read somewhere that they said it was natural causes, but I don't know exactly. I don't know where that stuff is. But any way you look at it, it's a tragic story that happened to her, and like to die at 39 years old when you didn't even reach your 40s yet. That's just heartbreaking to hear that. But apparently, the internet decided to go ahead and use Michelle Trachtenberg's death to do a couple of things. One, bring Blake Lively into a conversation that she had nothing to do with, because, of course, Michelle Trachtenberg was on Gossip Girl, and there was a lot of people on there that, you know, they were glad she was dead because of the fact that she was connected to Blake Lively, and it's just like, come on, man, really? Like, the internet really is a fucking joke, man. But yeah, you just had people online just making these... Not just people online, but a lot of media outlets out there who were just going after her because of how she was looking in the last couple of months before her death. And, like, making inappropriate comments and offensive criticisms of her. And, like, you know, we didn't know how bad her illness really was before they eventually was that. But, like it's apparently we didn't learn the lessons from Chadwick Boseman, because there were people who were literally comparing what happened to Michelle Trachtenberg to Chadwick Boseman, and when that happened, I was just like, come on, man. Like, I felt like Will Smith at the Oscars, man. It's just like, keep that dude's name out of your fucking mouth. I mean, seriously. Like, I mean, it's so disrespectful that somebody dies, and instead of, you know, celebrating them for what they accomplished and what they did, we have to go ahead and celebrate them because they're dead, or because we have to make these comparisons to something that neither one of these two should be connected to. Like, it's completely ridiculous. The only comparison you can make to Chadwick Boseman and Michelle Trachtenberg is the fact that whatever happened to them, they didn't reveal what it was. Because Chadwick Boseman, of course, had stage 3 colon cancer, and then it progressed to stage 4. And nobody figured that out until after he died. So, I mean, that's the one comparison I would make to Michelle Trachtenberg and Chadwick Boseman. But other than that, though, to try to compare them and insult them for the way they looked, it's just, like, the internet was a mistake, man. Like, yeah, it's good that I get to talk to you guys through that medium, but at the same time, moments like that is just like, man, I wish I didn't have to do it. Man, I wish the internet wasn't a thing anymore. I wish we were back in the 90s when we didn't have the internet. We just had television, and like social media was not a thing. That was a thing in the world, because like nobody can enjoy anything. Nobody can enjoy anything in this world. Nobody can be sad about anything in this world, because there's always going to be those few assholes out there who want to cause chaos. You know, it's like what Alfred said in The Dark Knight. You know, some men aren't looking for anything logical. Some men just want to watch the world burn, and like that's what that feels like to me. But anyway, Michelle Trachtenberg, you're never going to hear any bad things about me per se. So again, thoughts and condolences out to the Trachtenberg family. Like, nobody who had somebody passed away like that should have to deal with that in any way, shape, or form. So rest in peace, Michelle Trachtenberg. I will actually, you know, before I do leave, I do want to show my one favorite funny moment from Michelle Trachtenberg, but it's not from what you think it would be. It's from it's from Robot Chicken, and if you watch Robot Chicken, then you know exactly where I'm going to here, because I want to end this on a positive note here, because this is probably my favorite Robot Chicken joke they've ever done, and if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm about to show you here. And so the basis of the sketch is that it's Michelle Trachtenberg playing this gummy bear who's just walking around and going like, "I'm so happy because I'm a gummy bear," and then they get caught in a bear trap and they start screaming at the top of their lungs and start swearing off a storm, and it's freaking hilarious. And I'll just go ahead and I'll play the I'll go ahead and play the uncensored version. Why not? Here it is.
I'm so happy because I'm a gummy bear, gummy bear. Fucking motherfucking clock. Oh, I guess there's only one way out of this. Goodness, I taste delicious. Oh, that wasn't bad at all.
And of course, what she did was that she chew off her leg because she's a gummy bear, and she's just like, "Man, I taste delicious." And it's funny enough to do it the one time, but I mean, they have to add a whole nother level of hilarity to this. And what follows immediately soon after this? She's home free?
No.
Nope, gets caught in another bear trap. Oh my god, that is great. That is absolutely hilarious. And it took me a long period of time to realize that was Harriet the Spy screaming at the top of her lungs and swearing up a storm because her foot got caught in a bear trap. And yeah, it's stupid, yes, but Robot Chicken is known for being stupid and being hilarious at the same time. But that's my favorite moment from Robot Chicken, man. Just really, really hilarious stuff. Really gonna miss you, Michelle Trachtenberg. I mean, you were, from the stuff I saw you, and you were really a very memorable actress. And yeah, it's just a shame what happened to you, man. Like, rest in peace. So now with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next story I have here. So anyway, on to our next story that we have here, and it's not really much of a story, but it's something that leaked online. It's first leaked on Twitter, and I never thought we would see the day that this thing actually was going to come out, but boy did it come out, and boy does it look absolutely horrible. So you might remember a couple of years ago, they were talking about doing a Powerpuff Girls live-action show for the CW. And it was going to feature, what's that actress from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Chloe Bennett. It featured Chloe Bennett, Dove Cameron, and Yana Perrault as Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And it was going to feature Donald Faison as Professor Utonium. And, you know, it was a show that came around, and, you know, it was going to be something where it was going to be something for the CW, and it was going to have Tom Kenny as the voice of the narrator once again. But the script was leaked out to negative reviews, and the CW basically shelved the project in general, and it's never seen the light of day until just recently. Now, unfortunately, this is a very hard trailer to find online, because as soon as it got put up, Warner Brothers immediately took it down. So it's still on here right now, but I don't know how much longer this is going to be on here. But this is only a little bit of the trailer too. But let's just go ahead and just take a quick look at what this show could have been if this had actually gotten made. This is the CW's version of the Powerpuff Girls, called Powerpuff.
Blossom was constantly stressed.
Wait, is it daylight savings?
Buttercup was constantly rebellious.
I'm not wearing that dress anymore. It's gender normative and ass ugly.
We're already off to a wonderful start here, people. That is not even 10 seconds in, and it's just like, okay, now you can see why this show didn't last very well.
And Bubbles was constantly drinking. Go get him!
I did not realize that they threw in a fart joke too. Like, yeah, you could see why this thing never took off the air, because yeah, this feels like an insult to the Powerpuff Girls in general. But but it's like 6 seconds between the last pause and this pause, so this is not looking good.
And on one fateful day, the girls made a fatal error, costing Mojo his life. In the wake of disaster.
And if you didn't see that there, Mojo Jojo isn't a monkey. No, he's not a monkey anymore. He's a human being. 9 seconds. 9 seconds in between pauses. If I have to pause it 3 times and not even at the 30-second mark, then you should know that everything that bad about the show that's been addressed is fully up on the screen. And really, I don't think I need to say too much more about this already.
Blossom ran away. Buttercup became a real hero. And Bubbles, well, she made it all the way to Hollywood Boulevard.
Hi, I'm Bubbles. Everybody wants to talk to Fake Jesus. Hi.
Well, oops, babe.
I mean, that's the... I'll give it that. That's the one thing about this that I thought was hilarious. Bubbles, you know, going out to Hollywood and becoming a street performer, and that's the one thing that's just like, okay, that was actually kind of funny to see, but back to the garbage.
The Powerpuff Girls are coming to town tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Are the Powerpuff Girls reteaming?
Hell no, I am never caping for Townsville again.
The 3B's back in Townsville. I didn't want to bring this up yet, but I have reason to believe the darkness may be returning.
Like monsters?
Okay, this is copyrighted music, so I'm going to have to mute this for a little bit here.
In a sweeping reversal of fate, the Powerpuff Girls are beloved again in Townsville.
You're my daughters first. And your happiness is all that matters.
I'm really sorry for accusing your dad of mass terrorism.
Yeah.
Was she flirting?
I guess we're even. I mean, we are not even. I mean, just like.
Okay, so that's just a little bit of the footage there, but, I mean, if you've seen the full trailer, you can pretty much see everything that's wrong with this in general. I mean, the dialogue in here is terrible. The fact that this was co-written by Diablo Cody, of all things, like, I mean, I couldn't believe this was the same person that wrote Juno and Lisa Frankenstein. And, but then again, this is also produced by Greg Berlanti, who is the man who has been known for kind of destroying a lot of other properties, like what he did with what was the thing that he did that a lot of people really didn't like? I mean, he was one of the people behind Green Lantern, so that was not a good thing. But okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit here. He was behind some stuff that did work. I mean, the Arrowverse stuff was actually pretty good for the most part, but yeah, the whole idea of this was just such a bad idea, and I think we can be eternally grateful that this show never went on the air, because, yeah, this thing looked like a disaster from the get-go. Now, there's only 2 things I liked from that trailer I saw. One, the aforementioned scene with Bubbles, but surprisingly, I thought Donald Faison as Professor Utonium was actually not a bad choice in general here. I mean, he could have been the one thing that could have given the show the spark that it needed, but everything else is just looked pretty bad. The effects look pretty bad from the little bit that I saw. You know, the whole idea of these being the Powerpuff Girls all grown up. Like, Buttercup seems like more of a I don't want to, for lack of a better word, an obnoxious bitch this time around, because she seems much meaner than she has to be. Chloe Bennett feels like she's stuck in like a bad romantic comedy with that relationship she has at the end of the thing, and the whole idea of Mojo Jojo not being a monkey anymore and being a human being. Like, did you not learn your lesson from the the original Super Mario Brothers movie? Did you see why Dennis Hopper playing Koopa was not the smartest idea to do? I mean, yeah, we can laugh at it now, but at the same time, it's just like it's. I mean, this was bad, and I'm so glad that this never went off the air, and yeah, I think we should be extremely lucky that this show never got off the ground per se, and yeah, not much more to say about this one per se, but I will say this though. Hey, the Powerpuff Girls did at least get their revenge on their 2016 counterparts. If you saw the Jellystone crossover with Cartoon Network that they just did recently, there's literally a scene where the Powerpuff Girls are beating up the 2016 Powerpuff Girls. The original Powerpuff Girls are beating up the 2016 Powerpuff Girls, and it's really hilarious stuff, man. Supposedly that was, I think, Gendy Tartakovsky's suggestion to put that in there, and yeah, so yeah, that was fun to watch overall. But this. Yeah, we should all be grateful this show never went on the air, because, yeah, this seemed like a disaster in the making, so. Alright, so one more thing I want to cover here, and then we can get on out of here. So just this week we had the conclusion of Pop Culture Jeopardy, which is of course the Jeopardy spin-off that's basically focusing on the world of entertainment, movies, television, social media, you name it. It was on Amazon Prime Video. It was hosted by Colin Jost. And of course, for those of you who watch the show know that I really do love entertainment and movies and television, and honestly, I could have easily killed it on this show if I had two other friends who would have been more than willing to join me on this, but it would have been like that. It would have been like it would eventually turn out like the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon tried to go against Leonard and Cooper, Polly, and Wolowitz in the academic bee, and like he tried to show that he was better than everybody else on his team, and he had like 3 other guys with them, and they were all like people who worked within the university that they're in, and it's a great episode, and it has one of my favorite climaxes at the end where they're going to do the last answer to the question, and Sheldon has no idea what the answer is, but one of the guys on his team who he only brought there to essentially be the just be a representation of the team, is the one that comes up with the answer, and Sheldon basically just goes nuts and says, "That's not our answer," and like, actually, I've got the clip right here, so I'll just go ahead and show it to you, and it was the physics bowl, not the academic bowl. And it was Leonard's team was PMS, which they said it was like Perpetual Motion System, and I think AA was Sheldon's team, which of course you can figure out some people would put those letters as. But anyway, here's the clip right here, so I'll just go ahead and show it to you.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. AA, if you can answer correctly, the match is yours.
He doesn't have it. He's got squat.
AA, I need your answer.
The answer is -8 by alpha.
Hang on.
Excuse me, I was eating something, but my favorite part about that whole thing is that the Russian guy who's right next to him looks at the screen, and within a matter of seconds automatically knows the answer to the question. But it's the correct answer, but just the way that Sheldon basically refuses to accept that as the answer and just will not let it go, like, it's hilarious stuff. Like, I'll let the clip continue. It's like a minute left.
That's not our answer. What are you doing?
Answering question. Winning physics bowl.
Do you know anything about physics?
Here I am janitor in former Soviet Union. I am physicist. Leningrad Polytechnica. Go polar bears.
Well, that's a delightful little story, but our arrangement was that you sit here and not say anything. I answer the questions.
You didn't answer a question.
Hey, look. Now, maybe you have democracy now in your beloved Russia, but on this physics bowl team, I rule with an iron fist. Ow! Hey, I need...
Oh, now he had on one of those, it's like a wrist thing for like it's a thing for like a sleeve for your wrist. I can't remember what it was, but that's why he was making the owl noise. I can't remember what it's called though. Someone let me know in the comments below.
Your official answer. Well, it's not what he said. Then what is it? I want a different question. You can't have a different question. Formal protest. Denied. Informal protest. Denied. I need your official answer. No, I decline to provide one. Well, that's too bad, because the answer your teammate gave was correct. That's your opinion?
That would really be me on Pop Culture Jeopardy if somebody else got it, and I was the one that was supposed to get it. That would have been me on that show. So maybe I'm lucky that I shouldn't have been on that show. But I'm going off on Big Bang Theory here. But we're to talk about Pop Culture Jeopardy, and yeah, the show is pretty fun. It's a very fun concept overall. I'll admit that Colin Jost was a little bit distracting at first, but as the time went on, like, I did like the fact that as the show progressed, he did get more accustomed to the role as the host in particular. I did like the fact that as it went on, the show did eventually allow him to open up a little bit more, be more of the funny guy that we see on Saturday Night Live during Weekend Update. Like, I think that was a really good choice on their part to get him to do the hosting duties on that. I will say some of the people on the show are very stupid at times, because there are times when there are all 5 answers in one specific category are there, and nobody can get the answers, when even somebody like me, could get some of those questions easily. I'm trying to remember which one in particular was one that really irked me a lot, but which one was it? Like, there was one where there was a whole category of, like, questions from Sex and the City, and I don't watch Sex and the City a lot. I've seen episodes of the show, but even somebody like me who has never seen Sex and the City would be able to at least get some of the questions they had in that category. They went through all of them. Not a single person got a single question correct. Not even answer the question. They didn't even buzz in. And, like, sometimes these questions can be really hard. There was one in particular on Final Jeopardy for one of them where, like, if you don't look at it if you're looking at it from a distance like I was, you would have never pinned it together that this specific answer was supposed to be given. I'm trying to remember what the question was. It was a question about baseball and sport. It was like baseball, sports and baseball movie. I think it was baseball and sports movies. I can't remember what it was, though. Actually, I just found the clip right here, but unfortunately I got to wait a couple minutes for these commercials to go through here. But it wasn't sports and baseball movies. It was, I think, an actress in a character role. I can't remember the category in particular, but as soon as these commercials are over with, I'll show it to you. Or I'll let you listen in on it. Sorry, not show you. Actress in comedic movie role. Okay, that was the one I was thinking of here. And I felt really stupid when they revealed the answer to this question, because I looked at this and I thought something completely different. But here was the clue.
Actress and comedic movie role. Here is the clue. In 2024, Jeanette Charles died at 96, like this woman, whom Jeanette played in films including one in 1988, where she attends a ball game.
Now, when I saw this for the first time, my first thought was, well, obviously, 1988 baseball game. My first thought was maybe Susan Sarandon and Bull Durham, because that's when Bull Durham came out in 1988. And once you see what the actual correct answer is, you will see that when this happened, basically I felt like a complete idiot because I should have known this answer a long time ago. But anyway, here's what happened when they revealed the answer. But this is also, I'll mention this because what eventually leads up to this is sort of the fun factor with this show, because one of the contestants, one of the group of three people had like 11,400 points, and they lost all of those points in the Final Jeopardy. I think there was another one where I think it was 15,000 for one team. The one was 15,900, and then the leading one is 18,000. And so you think, okay, this is probably one where somebody's not going to get the answer to this, so they're going to be smart and not gamble it all away. But let's get to the end of the questions here.
We turn now to Queerly Benevolent. You had 15,900 points. You were in second place heading in. Did you come up with the correct response?
Wrote down who.
You came up with the correct beginning.
I missed out on that joke there. It was a pretty good one.
You came up with the correct beginning.
You came up with the correct beginning.
Let's celebrate that. Sorry, we cannot accept that as a full response. How much did you wager? 7,500, taking you down to 8,400.
So 8,400 for them. The leading group has 18,000. So you figure you'd be smart enough to not gamble it all away or gamble a ton of money on this. But we're gonna get to the last answer here.
To three almost dads, you were in first place with 18,000 points. What response did you come up with? Who is Gina Davis? Yes. I don't like that you're still questioning it. You should know. You're going to say Gina Davis?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect.
So, like I said, my initial answer to this was probably, my initial guess would have been Susan Sarandon and Bull Durham. But as they revealed, when they revealed this, it felt like I had the biggest egg on my face when they revealed it, because I should have known this.
Jeanette Charles In the comedy The Naked Gun, Reggie Jackson tries to kill her character at the ball game, but he is stopped. That character, Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth. She played her in multiple films and also in the 1988 comedy The Naked Gun.
Yeah. For those of you out there who have not seen my main channel, me talking about my favorite movies of all time, The Naked Gun is my favorite comedy of all time. It's the comedy I've watched many, many times in my life. And the fact that I saw that clue and didn't put two and two together at first, I really felt embarrassed when I saw that. When I saw that answer, I was just like, oh my god, I should have known that answer. That's one of those things where it's just like, it's like, you should know something. That's one of those things where it's just like, you've seen something so many times before, you should be smart enough to know what the answer to the question is. But yeah, that really, when I saw that, it's just like, wow, I'm embarrassed for myself. But not as embarrassing as the team that was in front, because this is the fun factor with this pop culture Jeopardy, and I think all the other Jeopardies nowadays. Like, I like that they're building up the drama here, because anybody with a brain would tell you, if you're in the lead, don't bet too many points. You know, don't bet a lot where you're going to risk losing the game here. But these three guys here, they had they were in the lead with 18,000. The team that was next to them had 8,400, and the team to the well, from where they're looking, they'd be the left. On the screen, it's from the right, and then to the left, they had 0. Anybody would tell you that the other team has 8,400, and you have a 18,000 point lead. Don't bet at all. So, what do these three guys decide to do?
And now we turn to the fateful question: how much did you wager?
They bet 13,801. They didn't bet at all, but they bet away the game. And because of that, the team on the right won with 8,400 points. I think the other team had like 4. After you took the points off, I think it's like 4,000 something. Let me see it again.
Did you wager? 13,801.
4,199. That one decision to gamble all that money, all those points, when you had the lead, and it bit them on the ass big time, because that team that won went on to play in the final game of the Pop Culture Jeopardy Finals, which, I mean, I don't know if they're doing this more on other Jeopardy shows just for the sake of it being fun and all, but I'm seeing that a lot more. I think they were doing that a lot during the greatest tournament they did on the greatest tournament Jeopardy players of all time tournament they did a couple of years ago on ABC. But that's kind of the fun of the show in general, because you think you know where it's going to go, but then you have moments like that. You have moments like that where you look at that and it's just like, what were you thinking by doing that? Just like, I guess to build up the drama per se, but hey, it works. It leads to a lot of very fun, entertaining stuff from the show, and it's a really fun show overall. Like, if you're a Jeopardy fan, it's one you should definitely check out and see. It's really fun to watch. Pop Culture Jeopardy. All the episodes are now streaming on Amazon Prime. The last episode just came out this week, the final game of the tournament. It amounted to a pretty fun show overall. And yeah, it's something where if you're an entertainment buff like I am, you can really get invested in it. And even yourself will be conflicted by, you know, what's the correct answers or not. Because yeah, that is sometimes those situations where you look at it and you think to yourself, okay, I think I've got the gist of this. I could do pretty well on here. And then something like that happens when you get a question that you think you probably have the answer to, and then it's something where you should have known better and should have known because it was something that you've seen so many times. It's just like, that's the fun of watching that show in particular. So that's my thoughts on Pop Culture Jeopardy. So with all that said, end of a long show, and honestly, we could probably just end it here, because I'm taking a look at some of the movies coming out this week on Blu-ray, and there's really not a whole lot to recommend here, so let's just go ahead and end it on this note here. With all that said, that's going to wrap this episode up. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, want to see other episodes that I've done, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the Academy Awards rewatch I did last week. And that's all for this week. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you did. And I'll see you guys next week. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. And until then, we are out.